Thanks so much for being with us today.
No problem, man. No problem whatsoever.
All right. Well, yeah, man. Shit. I guess I could start off asking you a couple of questions about your new album coming out, The Apex Predator.
Sure.
I listened to one of the singles online. I guess it was leaked or something. Sounds fucking brutal, man.
No. It was out there on purpose.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about the concept for the album? And
yeah, I mean, the concept was, it's just to say that sometimes, like, trying to arrive at an album title can be quite time-consuming. I kind of, I might ditch quite a few ideas before I get to the place where I want to be, but with this one there was a specific incident that was the catalyst really for what I was going to write about for this album, and that was, well, basically it was a sweatshop, or a building full of sweatshops that collapsed in Bangladesh about a year or so ago. And I just thought, well, I mean, it was a desperate situation, you know, and I just, the whole thing was first of all the media coverage, which, you know, when you have an event of that kind of magnitude where 1,000 to 2,000 people either dead or like really severely injured for the rest of their lives, you get to thinking to yourself, well, when the media coverage kind of fades away after a day or so, whereas normally you would get, with a major disaster, you get rolling coverage, it just seemed to me like, it gave me the impression that life just felt a little cheaper, you know, in that respect, in that incident. And so it kind of really bothered me, you know, so it kind of spurred me on to kind of write about that stuff. And, of course, for the people that worked in the building, well, there was a lot of big multinational companies with a big interest in the place. And they sort of, after the fact, there was kind of a big, I guess, like, thing in front of the press where they all sat there looking very forlorn and, you know, offered to put up a fund, you know, for the people whose families, you know, the people who died, their families, and for those that were going to have to live with their injuries and stuff. But it just kind of struck me that was no kind of solution, you know, that there's a big problem in this world right now which is a kind of a byproduct of globalization, you know, which is, you know, slave labour, basically. The conditions that people are under, which, if you kind of transpose those conditions into any other situation in life, and you were found to be culpable, you'd be in prison, you know what I mean? But because it's like big corporations and multinationals, it seems to somehow become almost acceptable, you know, for those conditions to still exist. So I wanted to kind of write an expose, really, you know, and sort of deal with that whole aspect of slave labour and consumption and disposal and all that kind of stuff.
So you're starting a tour coming up soon, at the beginning of next year, with Voivod, Exhumed,
sure.
Iron Reagan, and I know in the Bay Area, in Oakland, where I'm going to see you guys, Phobia and Black Crown Initiate, and then I heard some other dates you're doing with Dayglow Abortions.
Sure, yeah.
Did you guys have a hand in picking the bands you were touring with, or?
Well, we try to.
Yeah?
We try to. I mean, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to put together a bill like this, you know. But yeah, I mean, we kind of know, you know, we're in the scene, we're fans, you know, and we kind of know what people that like napalm want to see, you know, and so we try and build something that's A, good in that respect, and B, also good value, you know, good ticket price, and keep, you know, everything down, and just for everybody to have a good time, you know. Obviously the kids that like come to pay into the gigs, but also the bands that are there, you know, we want everybody to feel as if they're not kind of looked down upon or treated treated with deference or whatever, you know. Always try and make it a fun time for everybody.
That's awesome, man. I know we as the fans, we definitely appreciate it. All the people I've talked to are all stoked about this lineup. I'm up in Humboldt County, man. We're going to drive down 6 hours to the Bay Area to catch you guys.
Oh, that's nice to know, man. I appreciate that. It's nice to know that you know, that people feel that way about it, because it's always tricky. You just don't know how people are going to respond. But that sounds good, man. That sounds good, definitely.
Yeah. Are you guys excited about the the 7,000 tons of metal cruise?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we did the barge one a couple of years ago, which was a bit more extreme, you know, the music. Oh, and that was fun. I was a little cynical when I first went on there, to be honest, because I thought, this is going to be fucking lame, you know, like really cheesy and that. But it wasn't. It was really good fun, man, because you're meeting kids, whereas you might go to a lot of gigs and, you know, you'll talk to people, but you kind of need to get away reasonably quickly after the gig. Sure. But in this scenario, of course, you're on a boat. There's nowhere to go. And so a lot of the kids that go, they double it up as a holiday. And so you get to sit and talk with people and really good conversations, you know, and meet some really, like, wicked people and stuff, you know. So it's actually really a lot of fun, you know. I mean, this 70,000 tons is a bit more heavy metal oriented than the last one we went on. Yeah. But all the same, I'm sure it'll be a nice crowd, you know, or nice people and stuff. So.
That's cool, man. I'd never thought about it that way.
Yeah, sure, it's all good, you know.
Let's see. This is just a question that I've always wondered. Do you or the other guys in the band, do you have a favorite Napalm Death album or like a favorite era of the stuff you guys were doing?
Well, I can give you a couple. I mean, Utopia Banished was a really fun album for me, which is the second album that I personally appeared on. Utopia Banished, and then I think Enemy of the Music Business, because I think that was just such a pivotal point for us, you know, going from the more experimental and exclusively darker stuff, and then into the crazy full-on stuff again. It was like a bit of a transitional point. So those two, I guess you'd expect me to say, and I will, the new album, because it's a couple of steps onward, you know, but it still maintains that intensity, you know, and I think it's turned out really good in my view. All the people I've spoken to so far about it, that have heard it, seem to really, really like it a lot, and you know, so it's looking promising, you know, for the next tour cycle.
Well, I'm excited about the new album.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So, okay. Here's a question. Here in the States recently, we've had a lot of problems with police officers killing unarmed civilians and not being held accountable by our justice system. I know the cops in the UK don't even carry guns. I figured maybe you want to weigh in on this.
They kicks though at the best of times, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean I know all about it, mate. And this is a simple fact that, you know, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the police, I make no bones about it. I've never appreciated authority institutions where that enforce laws. That let's be honest, a lot of laws are based on self-interest. They're not really based on the good of the people. You know, when you cut it down, you know, when you really boil things down. So I've never been particularly trustworthy of the police. I know what the police can be capable of, and even though the police don't carry guns in England, they're still capable of doing some pretty heinous shit from time to time, you know. So, and the simple fact is, are you shooting an unarmed person, you're in the wrong. I'm sorry, but there's no justification for that. And I just thought, all the police turning up in that RoboCop style uniforms, I mean, what does that prove, you know? Oh, what does that mean? What purpose is that supposed to serve? Because if you're trying to gain people's trust, you know, for those that are going to be sympathetic towards you, then I'm damn sure that's not going to work, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, somebody told me I should ask you how you got the name Barney.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's not from the dinosaur. It's actually from the Flintstone. It's from the Flintstone, which is even better, you know. No, what it was, when in my younger days, when I did enjoy a drink or two, shall we just say that, I used to do some involuntarily, like, just break stuff. I mean, not meaning to vandalise stuff, but I'd just fall over and somehow try to save myself by hanging on to, just for argument's sake, a radiator, you know, and the thing would just come off in my hand and there'd just like be water pissing everywhere. So things like that. And yeah, I just called rubble because turning things to rubble, like Barney Rubble or whatever, so that was my nickname. It stuck. It was actually, do you know the band Doom?
Doom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the UK band. Yeah, it was their drummer, Stick. He gave me that name. He was the one that christened me that in the first place, should be so.
Oh, but goddamned.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Thanks for sharing, man.
No worries. Glad to be a public service, you know.
Yeah. I guess I could ask you, did it ever bother you guys when you got confused as like a death metal band?
Oh, that's a good question, actually, mate. I mean, I wouldn't say it bothered us because that's not the sort of thing to lose sleep over. But
sure.
I just thought it was a little odd, you know, because sure enough we've got those influences, no question, and I would never deny that, you know. But Napalm's about a lot more than that, you know. Some death metal, although not all, is quite regimented, you know, and kind of very much sticks to a certain pace. But Napalm's chaotic, you know. It's got that really wild and kind of unrestrained hardcore feel to it, and some of the riffs and stuff are really, really quite punky, you know. So there are definitely elements of death metal, no question. But you know, our main thrust really is taken from punk and hardcore because it gives us that very, very runaway kind of chaotic edge, and that's what we like, you know. We don't like regimented, robotic, you know, kind of metronomic stuff. We like to be fucking more or less sound as if we're falling down the stairs, you know.
Yeah. Any plans for the future once you guys get done with this tour cycle?
We're going to, it's only the US and Canada one that's been announced yet. And the European stuff will come into play, like, in a few weeks' time, I think. Once the new year starts, then there'll be some other stuff announced. The two things that I've heard about, that I know about, is India. I think we're playing in India, and we're also playing in Australia towards the early/mid part of next year, so...
Cool. I know Australia's got like a pretty decent grind and death metal scene over there. Do you guys play with a lot of local bands when you tour over there?
Which country did you say, sorry?
In Australia.
Australia, yeah. I mean, there's a friend's band of mine called Extortion. They're like fucking great. I'm not sure if they're still around, actually. I'm sure they probably are. But yeah, there's some real freaky like grind bands down there. Quite amusing and quite interesting. Because a lot of them are fucking drunk as shit, like 90% of the time, which makes for an interesting watch, you know, on stage.
You know what? Now that I think of it, didn't one of Shane's side projects do a split with Bloodduster from Australia a few years ago?
Yeah. That is correct. That's good. Nice bit of research there. You know, one of them did do a split, yeah, with Bloodduster. And what a ludicrous band they are, Bloodduster.
Yeah.
Funny guys, man. Really funny guys. They like getting arrested. I think they actually get great pleasure out of it, you know.
Wow. What about in India? I know India's got a little bit of a metal scene. Do you ever play with any Indian bands?
Yeah, not so far, but yeah, like I say, we're going down there, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes down, you know, because some of the subject matter of this album that we were talking about towards the start of this interview, some of it is centred on that continent, you know, so I'd like to have a look around and see for myself, you know, and on the serious side of things to see, yeah, what's going down, basically.
What is the name of that single from the new album that's out right now?
Cesspits, maybe.
Cesspit, yeah. What was the inspiration for that song in particular?
Well, I mean, I think I wanted to literally and figuratively talk about people living in holes, because of course you can figuratively be in a hole. I mean, you know that expression. Sure. When you're in the shit. Or I've seen people physically living in holes. I mean, for example, when we went to Nepal, it was fucking desperate. You know, there was like people on the side of the road, families like living in holes, you know, in ditches basically. And so I wanted to cover that because I think that's, you know, everybody, I think most people obviously feel really quite sympathetic towards those people. I mean, obviously they don't need sympathy, they kind of need liberating from their life situation, you know, but all the same, you know, people do feel sorry for them, you know, but I think in another sense, people almost need them there in one sense, because while you've got that separation of the status quo, if you like, then you in your position over there, you kind of feel a bit more comfortable, because you know you're kind of never going to be in that position. So it's almost a comfort thing, even though people... So it's like almost a song about psychology, that song, you know, in my own kind of weird little interpretive way, I suppose.
Wow. And the subtitle for Apex Predator is Easy Meat. And then...
Yeah.
What... So with that, I mean, I'm looking at the album cover right now. Where did you guys get the idea for this album cover? Is pretty brutal.
Well, we wanted a single. If you've seen a lot of the Napalm artwork, it can be quite involved and interconnected on past albums. But this time we really thought, let's go for something different. We didn't want to repeat ourselves with another really kind of, with a drawn sleeve or a collage. We just wanted a single image that we thought was strong, that people couldn't fail but to focus on. And so, what I was talking about earlier with the worker exploitation, well, that's like a supermarket tray, you know, what you might get some cheap, horrible, nasty fucking thing in. And that's like almost, if you think about it, it's like the last thing you'd want to eat, really, if you really were hungry and you wanted something decent to eat. So the easy meat that's inside there, that's meant to represent those workers that we were talking about earlier, because they are the easy meat in that Apex Predator easy meat thing. So it's almost like the ultimate indignity. You're like, you might be responsible for manufacturing some of these, or cultivating the contents of those packages, and you are indeed in the package now. So you're a product of your own environment, sort of thing. So that's where that comes from.
Wow. Well, I think that's about all the questions I have for you, Barney. Thanks for talking with me today.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Anytime. Thank you.
Hey, this is Chuck Billy from Testament, and I'm blowing it up.
I'm blowing it up.
Blowing up.
On Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos. Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos TV.
Motherfucker. Go fuck your mother.